If you love geckos just like I do, but you don't have a lot of space, well, here's another 7 tiny geckos that do amazing in 10 to 15 gallon enclosures. Let's get right into the video. Number 1 on the list is the big-scaled Dwarf gecko. It's one of the smallest reptiles on Earth, only getting to about 1.1 inches long. You can find them a lot in the leaf litters of the Caribbean, usually in Puerto Rico and places like that. It's probably why they have that coloration to them. They kind of look like the colors of dead leaves. The reason they're called big-scaled dwarf geckos is because 1, they're dwarfs, and 2, they actually have keeled scales, a lot like hognose snakes and things like that. So you want to keep them in a very high humid environment, usually 60 to 80% humidity, sometimes higher. You want to use a lot of cork bark, leaf litter, lots of springtails and isopods are going to be great for species like this, just so that they can really adapt to their little enclosures. You can feed them small things like fungus gnats or fruit flies and things like that. Make sure that if you're going to go with a bioactive enclosure for these geckos, that you provide them a lot of springtails, because that's actually their main source of diet. Moving on to number 2 on the list is the Dune Gecko. These dune geckos get about 2 to 3 inches tall, and they're native to North African deserts. Because they're so small, they can be housed in groups, even in a 10 gallon. I would prefer that you put them in a 15 to 20 gallon. Where are you going, buddy? My preference would be for you to size up to a 20 gallon, that way you can have maybe even up to 5 in one 20-gallon tank. Just make sure to provide lots of hide spots and lots of areas for climbing. For their basking spot, they prefer about 90 degrees Fahrenheit or 32 degrees Celsius, so just make sure that you have a thermostat so it doesn't go over those 90 degrees. They do like to dig a lot, so make sure that you have a substrate that's going to hold its form. That way they can make little burrows and things like that. For their humidity, you want to keep them at about 40% is perfect. Nothing over 50%, because then they can start having respiratory issues. Basically around the same humidity as a ball python. You can give them a water dish, but it's not necessary. As long as you miss the enclosure daily, they should be fine. But if you're going to step away for longer than usual, then I guess a water dish is fine. But because they're so small, just make sure that you're not giving them just like a large bowl where they can drown in. Number 3 on the list is the Anjouan Island Day Gecko. It looks very similar to the giant day gecko, but just a dwarf size. They can reach anywhere from 4 to 5 inches, which is kind of bigger than some of the species on this list, so this would probably be better for a 15 to 20 gallon enclosure. You want to maintain their temperatures from 78 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit in a basking spot of around 85 to 90 degrees. UVB is essential with these, as they are day geckos basically. These geckos can be fed a variety of things like crickets, waxworms, wax moth larvae, fruit flies. Overall, I think this is a great species to have if you really love the giant day geckos, but you just want something a lot smaller. You go with this species. Number 4 on the list is the border beaked gecko. Now, I had a little bit of a hard time finding any information on this gecko. It is an Australian species, so I know that probably from import reasons that it's very scarce in the reptile world right now, but I'll do a video on that entire genus, which is the Rhynchoedura. I'll put it down here. It's a lot easier for me to just do that. These geckos grow to be 3 to 4 inches long, including the tail. You can find them in the arid regions of Australia. If at some point they become more prevalent in the reptile world, because I couldn't even find it on Morph Market, you would want to set them up with a dry setup with a lot of rock hide. Nighttime could have some drops in it, but basically your basking area should be 85 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and you can feed them crickets and roaches, things like that. Fun fact about them is that their snout is curved and pointed up like a bird's beak, which gives them their name, border beaked gecko. The next species on this list I wasn't going to put in there because they are critically endangered, so it's not going to be until a while that you'll start to see them in the reptile industry, which a lot of other species are endangered but are kept by keepers to keep the species going past extinction in the wild. It is the Mount Francis leaf-toed gecko. Now, these geckos, again, I couldn't find too much information on them because they are critically endangered, but they are from Madagascar. They get anywhere from 3 to 4 inches long, and they prefer humid forest-style tanks with lots of leaf litter and cork hides. You have to keep the ambient temps around 75 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. 85 for the basking. UVB is beneficial, but they don't absolutely need it. Captive breeding is a must with these geckos as they are critically endangered. Who knows, they might even be part of a breeding group to reestablish their populations in Madagascar. Number 6 on the list is the common house gecko. These little guys get anywhere from 3 to 5 inches long, so you might want a 15 to 20 gallon for these ones. These geckos are found on the walls and windows of basically every tropics out there in the world. If you go into the iNaturalist website, they're found anywhere from Southern California all the way down to Bolivia, from Pakistan all the way down to New Zealand. I mean, these geckos are literally everywhere. They are a species that likes to climb a lot, so a vertical enclosure would be great for them. Branches, vines, ledges, things like that. They prefer temperatures of 75 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit and a 60 to 70% humidity gradient. These are most likely better suited just as a display animal and not as something that you can pop your hand into the enclosure and try to hold them. They'll probably just try to squirm away as best as they can. One of the cool things about these geckos, and the reason they're called house geckos, is that they're natural pest control. So they'll take care of mosquitoes, small spiders, ants, things like that. So if you see some, or if you live in an area that has a lot of these house geckos, make sure to leave them alone because they're basically your pest control for free. Number 7, and my favorite on this list, is the scorpion gecko. First of all, it's just a really cool name, scorpion gecko. Second of all, the reason why they're called scorpion geckos is because they have these little tails that kind of curl up. It's just the cutest thing ever. It reminds me of my little chow chow that I have. And they're always just kind of in this like little defensive posture. It's just the cutest thing ever. I actually saw one at the Sacramento Reptile show of 2024. Ever since I saw them, I've always wanted them. The little one that I saw, the lady said that he is actually a breeder male that she had. So it was a fully grown adult gecko. You can see in the clip just how small these geckos are. They inhabit a lot of the rocky deserts in the Middle East, so they do have a more arid setup, which is really cool, having a small gecko that has an arid setup. 85 to 90 on the day temps with a cooler retreat for the night drop. You don't need to give these geckos UVB, but a little bit of UVB doesn't hurt for any kind of species, even snakes. Because this is more of an arid species of gecko, they don't have the sticky toe pads that geckos are usually known for. Another cool thing is that you can keep them in groups, 2 to 3 in a 10 gallon, but of course with groups you want to provide as much hides as possible. I would say 15 to 20 gallons for these guys, but they are making a little bit of a wave in the reptile community, so grab a scorpion gecko if you can. They're still a little high up there in price, but if you're a reptile keeper, I don't think it's really that big of an issue. They're going anywhere from like $200 to $400 right now, so that will definitely change in the future. What was your favorite gecko on this list? Comment that down below, and if you want to see the first video I made about the 7 tiny geckos that can live in 10-gallon enclosures, click this video right here. Thank you all for watching. Peace out.